I'm an accountant. I'm buff. Let's just call myself the buff accountant. I really love lifting weights and shaping my physique. I'm going to pursue bodybuilding. At the end of the day, it is a solo sport and you're responsible for your own skills. One thing I don't like about bodybuilding though, an opinion-based sport. There's no definitive score. I like his physique more than you. That's set in stone. I'm trying to do things that's going to make me better. I've tracked every lifting session for the past 12 years or so. I like to make sure every time I step foot in the gym, I'm going to grow from that session and not just go through the motions.
Hey y'all, welcome to Behind the Beast, where we get to know the contestants on Beast Game Season 2, Strong vs. Smart.
How you guys doing? My name is Diego de la Torre. I was number 102 on Beast Games. In real life, I'm a tax accountant and a competitive bodybuilder.
So on Instagram, you call yourself the buffest accountant. Is there a person who coined that term, and what's the story behind it?
So, no real story behind it. I just kind of wanted to integrate kind of my two, main things in my life, which is work-related and my passion and hobby related, which is bodybuilding. And I thought it was unique to kind of, hey, let's create something that's synergistic, and I said, hey, I'm an accountant, I'm buff, let's just call myself the buff accountant. That's kind of the whole basis of that.
So you're the genius behind the name in the beginning.
Correct. Nobody coined it but me. I'm the originator of that.
So in high school, you played a lot of competitive golf. Can you talk about through some of your favorite moments from that era of your life?
Yeah, so beyond high school, I actually even played collegiately, Division I at San Jose State University. I was a state champion golfer in high school, so I played at a pretty high elite level through junior and high school golf. And I think my favorite moment was winning the team championship when I was a sophomore, and I had two of my closest friends who were seniors at the time, who I talked to almost every day. And winning that and kind of sharing that moment and all the lead up to that, that year we said, hey, we're going to win the state championship and bring it back for our high school. And we kind of worked all the way through. It's really weird. In Washington, our seasons are split. So half of the state has their season in the fall, and the other half of the state has their season in the spring. So in order to have the state championship, everyone has to finish their season. So when we finish our season in fall, we have to wait for state, which is all the way in spring.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In May. And we finish our season in October.
Sure.
So we used, it can be good or bad. So, but we always like to use that extra time, try to, acclimate our skills, get a little bit sharper, and make sure we're prepared for whatever course we're playing. So I remember that year very well. And we all, every single day, we were, in the gym trying to get a little bit bigger, stronger, and always on the range and playing and trying to sharpen our skills. And we kind of did that all the way through to May. And we were ready.
Nice.
And I think that was just that lead up and that whole process working together as a team. That was whatever 6 months it was. It was a very memorable time in my life, and it's something I'll never forget. And I can share it with two of my closest friends.
So when people think of golf, they usually think of it being a solo sport. So how does that team aspect actually come about, like you were talking about?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it is a solo sport and you're responsible for your own skills. It's like you can't piggyback off your teammate. They're not going to make a putt for you. You're going to have to, man up and hit the shots. What does come into play is the camaraderie together and building each other up and helping each other out and make sure everyone is on the same trajectory as each other. Nice. So that way, comes the tournament, especially in high school where it's a team aspect, everyone is on top of their game, because at the end of the day, one person can win the individual title. That's not going to win the title for the team, right? Sure, everyone has to, contribute.
So eventually, what made you trade in your golf clubs for bodybuilding and what you do now?
Yeah, good question. So that happened when I was at San Jose State. So after my, two really good friends left and graduated, the last 2 years, I was really into it, individual sides. So really trying to sharpen my skills and doing everything by myself. And going into college at San Jose State, having to kind of switch that mindset and then really do everything with the team, where I didn't see eye to eye with a lot of the other players. They were more about partying and doing a lot of things that I wasn't into, drinking and just being degenerates.
Sure.
I didn't see eye to eye with that. And then the coach got mad at me for not being a team player and participating in team activities.
Okay.
But I was like, I'm trying to do things that's going to make me better.
Yeah.
And because I'm not being a participant with the team, he didn't like that. So that kind of threw everything off. And at that time, after kind kind of my two friends graduated, I really started getting into the gym. And, originally wanting to lift to get better at golf, be more athletic. Well, I ended up turning there. I started seeing, my body transform and, going to kind of a mainstream gym, commercial gym. I saw, other bodybuilders, stuff like, holy crap, these guys look incredible, look like action figures.
Yeah.
And that really sparked my interest into bodybuilding. It's like, wow, I want to look like that.
Nice. Yeah.
So I really started getting into lifting weights the later years, junior, senior year of high school. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was in really good shape, extremely good shape. And that carried over to college. And like I said, I knew what I wanted to do in terms of what's going to make me a better player and doing my own workouts, not doing these kind of sissy team golf workouts that we were doing. That didn't sit well with the coach and the other players. That led to arguments. And that kind of made me depart from golf and say, you know what, screw this. I know I really love lifting weights and shaping my physique. I'm going to pursue bodybuilding. So that kind of what led me into the bodybuilding scene. So I left San Jose State and I transferred over to Washington State University. And that's where I switched from, I was initially studying kinesiology because I loved, the human body and anatomy and whatnot. And then I switched it and, I said, you know what, I want to focus on being a bodybuilder. What is going to be the best profession that's going to facilitate me to allocate my resources to bodybuilding? Like, what is going to be the best thing that's going to help me provide financially and limit my physical stress so I can allocate all my resources to being a better bodybuilder?
Yeah.
So that kind of brought me into something like accounting. And as I started studying accounting in school, I said, hey, this is logical. This makes sense to me. I think I can provide a lot of value out in the workforce with this. So that's kind of how it started. And now we're here and started pursuing bodybuilding and accounting. And
I love that. And you told me a little bit earlier that you're very much a logical person. So do you think that both bodybuilding is logical as well as accounting?
It's all quantitative, right?
Sure.
When you're shaping your physique, like I said, you have to do something better than the previous time. So whether that is with your nutrition, like if you're trying to gain weight, you have to be eating more than your body is expending, no matter what. If not, it's science. You're not going to gain weight. Same thing in the inverse. If you're eating too much food, more than you're expending, then you're not going to lose weight. Same thing in the gym. If you're not acclimating and putting more load and more stimulus on your body's not going to adapt and grow. So it's just logical to me. It makes sense. And there's no, opinions involved.
Perfect.
So one thing I don't like about bodybuilding, though, it is an opinion-based sport, right? You're judged.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There's no definitive score per se. Like, it's by the perceiver. The judge can say, hey, I like his physique more than you for whatever reason. And then that's set in stone. Even though if you looked at someone else and pulled somebody else, they can say, no, I like his physique.
Sure.
So that's something, I do miss, that definitive ability to determine a winner. Like golf, if you have the lowest score, you'll win, right? It's as simple
easy.
as that. It's not subjective.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Like any other judge sport. Gymnastics, it's based on a judge or ice skating or whatever, right?
Those are harder to kind of deal with. And especially if you think you did your best and then somebody else didn't think that way.
Yes, defining a winner is it's subjective. It's up to somebody's opinion, not on fact or some quantitative score.
Bodybuilding often demands sacrifice and routine. So what's one superstition that people usually don't think is real that you actually follow and it's helped you?
I would say on the nutrition side of things, there's a lot of nuances about protein intake. So one thing that comes to mind is people think the main sciences and studies say, hey, 1 gram per pound of body weight is the maximum amount you need. And in my experience, the bigger you get, closer to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight in protein, I feel like your body is able to synthesize that amount of protein and expedite your growth.
Sure.
So I think that's off the top of my head for nutrition wise, that comes to mind. And then on the training side of things, one superstition I felt is very true is the intensity portion, which we talked about. So now there's a lot of science coming out saying, hey, it's better to leave a couple reps in the tank and save your energy, because by going and pushing yourself so hard, it's going to hinder your ability to recover. And I think just taking from, bodybuilders in the past and using them as examples, for example, Dorian Yates or Tom Platz, who were masochists in the gym, just torturing themselves.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer that there's no upper limit to how hard you can push yourself in the gym. I think there's an upper limit in terms of how much volume and how much stuff you do that can provide the overtraining aspect. But as long as you kind of shrink that down, there's no limit in how hard you can push yourself within that confined amount of sets you do. So I truly believe that intensity and effort is the biggest driver in how you transform your physique.
So now, what's the biggest misconception about bodybuilders that you could misprove in just one sentence?
Bodybuilders are idiots, like muscleheads. So in order to have that amount of discipline, it has to carry over to other things.
Sure. Yeah.
You can't just have that in one part of your life and have it not be carried over to other things.
Yeah.
So if you're able to shape your body and transform yourself, you can't be stupid. Like, it has to be, congruent with other aspects of your life. And I think if you see a lot of the top bodybuilders and people who are good in the sport, they're also very successful in other areas of their life, whether that be business or whatever. So I don't know how that came up. She's like, oh, they have a lot of muscles, so they must have a small brain. But
I think maybe people think just because like they don't have enough time to do other things. But I mean, here's an obvious exception: you do accounting, you do bodybuilding, you do a lot. So
yeah. So I don't know how that whole stereotype came about, but I've never talked to a bodybuilder who was just a straight idiot or stupid.
I love it, yeah.
How you guys doing? It's Diego here. We're going to walk you through a hardcore leg day today. You're going to notice the theme today is we're going to use single jointed movements to kind of pre-exhaust ourselves. That way, when we get into our heavier compound movements, we don't have to use as heavy a weight. My theory is that, load is the biggest threat to injury. So by using single jointed movements and exhausting ourselves, we don't have to go as heavy on our compound movements. And that's just going to mitigate risk and elicit the hypertrophy that we're trying to get. So I'm going to quote my favorite bodybuilder, Dorian Yates, today. And it goes like this: I hope you're ready. It's going to be rough. Like I said, it's blood and guts. First movement, we're going to do line hamstring curls. We're going to do a few warm-up sets, acclimate up in weight and load, and we're going to do 2 all-out sets, as many reps as possible, with as heavy weight as possible. And then as we move on to the auxiliary movements, we're going to just start doing less warm-ups and just get a kind of a feeler set and save our energy. So my big methodology of training is getting in, getting out, doing as little as possible to make change. So with that, I like to kind of limit the amount of total sets and make sure the sets quality is there. So less sets, but the intensity is through the roof. Mind-blowing, bloody nose, puking, as hard as you can go. So let's get it. So today, for example, I know my previous session here, this is leg day A. I did the stack plus 70 for 10 reps and 2 assisted. So I got same weight on here, stack plus 70. So no matter what, I got to get an 11th rep. If not, my mind is like, this whole workout was pointless. If I come here and I did the same reps, there's no new stimulus to elicit growth. So we have to find a way to get that 11th rep, or the alternative to that would be to add maybe 2.5. But I want to stick with it because 10 reps is kind of the bare minimum on this movement that I want to do. But we're going to fight for that 11th rep. It's going to be what's called an intensifier. So that first set we did was a straight set, meaning we're just going all out in one continuous fluid motion. This next set, we're going to add an intensifier, multiple. So we're going to go all out with this first weight. We're going to immediately drop probably 40% of the current load, 30 to 40%. We're going to go all out again. Once we fail with that, we're going to do 25 partial reps. So the bottom range of motion, we're going to move it maybe 2 or 3 inches. Once we can't physically move it at all, I'm going to assist him all the way up. And he's going to go as slow as possible on the way down. I'm going to add some additional resistance. After that, the set's terminated. And you're done for that. We're done with hamstrings. Go ahead. So I've tracked every lift for, I go back here on my notes app, all the way back to Man, 2013. Just going all the way back. So I have everything documented here so I can kind of, really implement one of the biggest and most important muscle building principles, which is progressive overload, and making sure each and every session you're doing something a little bit better, either more weight or more reps, better tempo. Something has to improve in order to create that stimulus to continue to grow. Up, 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 one more. Up. Ooh. Yep. Oh my God. Oh my God. Very similar rep structure to this. Pretty much exactly the same. 2 working sets. Again, we're going to do a few warm-up sets just because this is quads. Our hamstrings are warm. Let's get a little bit more blood and fluidity in the knee joints here. 3 or 4 warm-ups. And then we're going to do 2 all-out sets. A top set is going to be very similar to 10 to 12 reps in a just straight set fashion. Second set, we'll add those 2 intensifiers back in. So these first 2 movements are what I call pre-exhausting. So after this movement, we've already pre-exhausted the hamstrings and the quads. Then we're going to get into our main bread and butter movements, which for today is going to be leg press and hack squat. Reason being is once you start getting super strong, the risk of getting hurt once you start having to load a ton of weight on there just to make it hard enough starts becoming incrementally higher. So to kind of bypass that and mitigate the risk, it's good to do some single joint movements to pre-exhaust. So you're tired already when you get to the main compound bread and butter movement, so you don't have to go as heavy. You're gonna have to 5-pound jumps, but this is a 10-pound jump. But just because he's freakishly strong at leg extensions, I gotta try to keep up. So let's see if I don't die here. I'll try to get like 10. I think we'll be pretty happy with that. Yeah! That one! Oh, shit, that's heavy. Come on, push. Come on! Right there. Oh my God, dude.
So now, as an accountant, it probably saves their clients thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars with creative loopholes. Why do you find accounting so fascinating?
Yeah, I really like providing the value to people and saving them money. So tax is an erosion of your wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to save as much and create that wealth, I find very satisfying.
Sure.
The thing I hate seeing happen to people is not, planning ahead and strategizing and paying money to the government that they shouldn't be paying, and essentially hurting themselves in the long run. So I find it just satisfying to help people in that way.
What's one early career mistake that you made that you're actually glad happened because it taught you something that you couldn't learn any other way?
Yep. So I think the biggest thing is overreaching and trying to do too much. So as we were talking about in the gym earlier, is learning to pull back and take breaks. So as somebody who really believed that, hey, doing more is always better, learning the hard way that, hey, if that was the secret, all these top people would be doing everything 24/7, never stopping.
Sure, yeah.
But learning to have more quality, sessions in what you're doing and being very productive versus just doing a bunch of junk. So learning that the hard way and kind of essentially wasting a couple of years just pushing too hard and not getting anywhere versus taking one step back, 2 steps forward and taking the time to have the quality versus the quantity.
And I think you mentioned earlier a quote, it's the best way to grow and gain physical strength is not to get injured in the first spot. So you need that recovery.
Yeah. And then, like I said, it carries over to anything. So it's better, let's say you have a lot of work to do on a given day. It's better to break it out into 2 days and have more quality productive sessions in your work. So you're able to think more and do more quality work versus trying to push it out all the way. And by the end, you're doing junk work that you're going to have to fix next time around.
So now bodybuilding and numbers require a lot of strict discipline. So what's one thing that you keep track of that you think you kind of like are a bit obsessive over?
So on the bodybuilding side of things, like I was showing you in the gym earlier, is I've tracked every lifting session for the past 12 years or so.
That's amazing, honestly.
So it's cool. I would love one day if I had time to go map it on like an Excel and have like a chart to see the progression in terms of strength and over the movements. But like I said, I like to make sure every time I step foot in the gym that I'm getting better and making sure that I'm going to grow from that session and not just go through the motions. So in order to do that, I know every single day I step in the gym, I know the exact numbers I need to beat. Exact numbers. And if I go in there and if I tie a number, if I don't beat it, essentially in my mind, that whole workout was a waste.
Wow. Okay.
Because if I'm not in there doing something better, why is my body going to adapt and grow?
Sure.
So I just place a huge emphasis on that to get better. And I'm also on the nutrition side. I'm on a very strict meal plan. And I try to keep it at, I eat 6 meals a day, 7 days a week. That's 42 meals. At least 41 or 40 of them I'm 100% on. And at this point, since I'm not getting ready for a show, I have the ability to have a couple free meals. So now when you're getting ready for a show, it's 100%, right? You can't deviate at all. You want to keep the variables consistent, and you're only going to manipulate only 1 or 2 variables at a time to make sure you're getting right down to whatever your goal is. On the tax side of things, I think the biggest thing we track is doing the tax planning throughout the year and making sure we're accounting for all the new activities or all the changes through the year so we have a good idea of how much we need to pay, the minimum amount. So for example, most of our clients have to pay estimated tax payments. So what we want to do is make sure they pay the least amount as possible so they don't have any underpayment penalties. That way they have as much money possible in their pockets to use to invest and grow their wealth. So tracking and making sure every quarter we know exactly what their income was so we can adjust their estimated tax payments appropriately so they keep as much money that they have now to reinvest in other activities.
Going back to increasing weights every single time that you work out, how do you go about actually adding those incrementally? Because I feel like eventually you'd run out of weights. So like when people start going to the gym, even if they start at 30 pounds, it's hard to do 31 pounds, 32 pounds. So is it like an extra rep that you'd recommend? Like what are the different ways that you can slowly start to increase little by little?
Yep. So again, there's primarily 2 variables that I like to manipulate. I like to keep the other variables consistent, but there's other things you can play with as, let's say, you stall out in terms of trying to add more load or more repetitions. But those are the primarily 2 variables I like to manipulate. Another variable you can manipulate is tempo. So trying to slow down the rep and make it a little bit more difficult. You can manipulate the rep range. So maybe instead of doing something in the 6 to 10 rep range, you do something to the 10 to 15 rep range and you get better within there and then come back to it. And another variable you can even manipulate is exercise order. So instead of doing this exercise first, you change it up and you move it to the end, and then you keep that going for a block of whatever 6 to 8 weeks. Then you come back to it. In theory, you should be able to push past that plateau from that change.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's different things you can play with. But I always like to focus on the 2 main ones, which is going to be load and repetitions and trying to increase those. Typically, those are the only things I do change, and I do a rinse and repeat. So typically how my training program would go is I run a training block with my set workout days and set exercise I'm doing on those days. I'll push that for between 8 and 16 weeks. And I'll listen to my body, and that my body will tell me, says, hey, the fatigue meter is going through the roof, we're going to
Sure.
need to take a deload and aka take a week off and let the body fully recover. And then we kind of rinse and repeat and start over.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, if I can do these blocks of 8 to 16 weeks, I'm able to continuously week over week add 1 more rep, 5 more pounds, all the way until I kind of get the fatigue meter going too high.
Sure.
We deload, then we start over, but just a little bit better than we did the last block, right?
Nice, yeah. So now, if you could take one thing away from Beast Games that doesn't have to do with money, what is the biggest thing that you took away?
I think the biggest thing I took away was understanding the entertainment industry and seeing the scale that they're operating at.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see the kind of infrastructure involved with creating a program like Beast Games. Seeing, hey, this huge tent, all the cameras, the crew, the logistics of getting everything there.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. I can't imagine how complicated it is to kind of plan around 200 people.
And even season 1, the 1,000 to 2,000 people, even crazier.
Yeah, the amount of planning involved. We had 200 people there, having the food involved, the planning, the infrastructure of filming the scenes, then flying everybody to a different location. I think just seeing the scale of that, I think that was probably the coolest part. So I had a chance to talk a little bit with some of the team members there and just talk about the whole business model and how everything works around. I think that was the biggest takeaway and that I took away from that.
One thing that really stood out to me is we have a group chat between all the contestants from season 2. And often there they ask some financial advice, whether it's a sweepstakes they entered and like what the tax value is or anything of that sort. And you oftentimes chime in and kind of help with that free support to kind of give them like general guidelines of where to go. So if the season 2 winner or any future winners seeing this video right now, what's one piece of advice that you could give them?
Plan. So I would say set aside money to have some fun with, then set aside a significant amount of money to try and invest in either traditional investments or even some tax advantage investments to try to mitigate your tax bill. And also save some money for tax, because no matter what, more than likely, unless you spend all your money and plus some into some other investments, you're going to have to pay a large tax bill. So planning, getting your team involved, whether that be a CPA, an attorney, estate planning, and a wealth manager, you need all these people involved and talking to each other to make sure you're set and not setting yourself up for failure. Single joint movements like hamstring curls and extensions are pretty easy from a systemic standpoint because you're only moving one joint. It sucks because it hurts, but when you're doing something like a squat or a leg press or something where your whole body is really clenched and involved, once you kind of push to those thresholds of you feel like you're going to die, it's miserable. It's miserable, but it's so satisfying because if you can survive, I always say if you can survive this kind of leg day training, everything else you do in life is easy. And you build so much confidence, you're like, wow, I just tortured myself. Felt like I was just being waterboarded or something. I can survive that. Dude, I can do anything. So I will say that has been a big precursor to successes in my life outside of being able to just push myself in the gym and learning to suffer. And doing the work sucks at times, but it's always rewarding in the end. That's already a 10% increase about. So incrementally, it just depends on the movement and how much weight you're already doing. But there's a reason why I like to fatigue myself before these, so I don't have to load it up with, 1,200 pounds. Good. So we're going to do essentially one cluster set here. The way it's going to work is we're going to go all out. So we can't do another rep. We're going to rack it. We're going to take 30 seconds. We're going to go all out again. Wait 30 seconds. Go all out one more time. We're going to drop the weight immediately. If we fail with that lighter weight, we're going to go into 5 partial reps. After that, we terminate the set. This is by far the hardest set of the whole training week. It's horrible. I don't wish it upon anyone. But let's get it. You. Platform. Rock and roll. Come on. Big one.
Easy. Come up.
Shit. Oh my God. All right, leg press is done. Like I said, that's probably the hardest thing we do in this whole training block. It's miserable. We got 2 more movements left. We got hack squats and then seated curls. Hack squats, no intensifiers. It's just 2 straight sets. So 1 straight set of somewhere between 8 and 10 reps. And then a second straight set that we call Widowmaker, which is a breathing set of 15 to 20. So essentially you want to do a weight where you can get 12 to 15 continuous reps. Once you've kind of hit the wall there, you're going to take it 1 rep at a time until you collapse. Essentially, give the name Widowmaker because you're trying to kill yourself and create a widow.
Strong, dude. Strong. Up. 1 more. Strong. Easy. Strong, dude. Strong, Diego. Come on. There you go. Come on, dude.
Fuck. Stay with me.
Screw you. I need help with you. Come on.
One more.
Slow.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. When your legs are so pumped, it's like really hard to get your legs in here. So it's made for people who don't have big legs. Other things like, it's like almost like you're crippled because you need somebody to like help you get in the machines. All right, let's go.
Just click it or tick it.
Yeah, click it or tick it. Holy shit, that's heavy.
One more. Come on. Again. Squeeze. Whoa. Partials. Trumpet phone. Good.
Oh my God, dude. Push down here. Okay, I got it. Oh.
Good. Come on. One more. Last one. Up. Whoa.
Hold it up.
Go. Thank you. Boom.
Up. Yeah, partials, I got it.
Partial. Good. Good. Good.
Jump! Pull up.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, and to finish things off, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. What's the most interesting tax question you've ever been asked?
Yeah, so recently I had a very affluent client reach out and do some advanced tax planning. So his situation, he was receiving employee stock options from a large logistics company that was then acquired by a private equity firm. The total transaction, he received roughly $6 million. And we had to try to figure out what's the best way to mitigate this large tax burden. So one thing we were able to use in this, we were able to strategize. We were able to throw some of the proceeds into what's known as a qualified opportunity zone. High level, this is a certain area the government incentivizes investments to kind of build up. So it's kind of a distressed area. The government wants people to invest, build some infrastructure, and develop that area. And as a result from that, you're able to defer the money you put in. And then eventually, if you hold on to the money long enough, the gains within that investment are completely tax-free. So the advantage of this is that all the gain, we've put a lot of money into qualified opportunity zones. This allows us to defer the gain recognition. Instead of having to recognize the gain this year, he's able to defer it out multiple years. This allows us time to use strategies like tax loss harvesting. So we're able to couple the deferral with the tax loss harvesting and his investments in his brokerage account. And eventually, if we plan it out right and we were working together with his wealth managers, we are able to create enough losses in the tax loss harvesting to offset the gain once he has to recognize it. So we're estimating between the $500,000 that he would put into this qualified opportunity zone, by the time he has to recognize the gain, we will have accumulated enough losses to completely offset the gain, saving him roughly $150,000 in tax liability.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so interesting. That the way you have to solve it like a puzzle almost. Yeah. It's really cool. What's the biggest pet peeve in clients?
Poor correspondence. So I hate procrastinators. When I'm trying to do my job and get your information and get things done timely, nothing pisses me off more than people who just suck at replying.
That's really valid.
I have clients where I would call them 5 times, send them 10 emails, and they wouldn't respond. And then just to know that they only text. So then I have to text them, and then they reply instantly.
Oh, dang. Okay.
So just
be open about your communication style. Yeah.
Poor communication is just very frustrating. So if you want to work with me, just please be good with your communication and respond timely, at least within 24 hours.
Fair enough. Now, what is the most underrated golf course that you've ever played?
So one of our home courses in San Jose State was Pasatiempo. It's decently well known. I don't know if it's underrated, but probably not well known. But it has the same designer as Augusta National, which is where the Masters is played every year. So you have all the intricacies of the green complexes similar to Augusta National. If you ever have the chance to play it, it's a public golf course. It's in Santa Cruz on the coast. Beautiful golf course. Unbelievable design.
Perfect. And then what is the best lift? Bench, squat, or deadlift?
Definitely squat. When I'm healthy, I love doing free bar squats. Mm-hmm. I think one of the most addicting things is doing a high rep barbell squat. So Tom Platz is known for doing crazy, crazy high rep squats. I believe he's done 525 for 23 reps. And then legend has it he did 405 for 40 reps. Mm-hmm. And I really got into that in my younger years where I was doing, I think my best ever, I did 315 for 42 reps, and I've done 405 for 25 reps. And just having that adrenaline where you're just going, you do another one, and you go until you throw the bar off your back and you're laying on the ground trying to understand how you're alive.
Sure.
That's the most addicting thing you can do, but definitely squats when I'm feeling good.
I love that. Perfect. And then to finish things off, what was your favorite moment from your time on Beast Games?
I didn't spend much time there, unfortunately, but I would say the actual competition and reliving the actual first contest, which was the climbing down the pole and going on to the bag and pulling the bag up and then grabbing the blocks. I think just going through that and the adrenaline of the competition, that was fun, and I definitely would love to try it again.
I'll say that was probably one of the most epic things to ever watch, especially as someone who's not on the strong team. I was just bewildered by honestly you guys doing that. But yeah, that's everything for today. Thank you again, Diego, for joining me. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Behind the Beasts.
Thank you for watching another episode of Behind the Beasts. It genuinely means the world to me. Now, for those who do not know, we are also doing a fundraiser across the entirety of the series for Major Connections. It is a foundation created by Gloria, one of the other contestants on the show, and its purpose is to provide resources as well as a sense of community for those with disabilities, both kids and adults, in rural communities. Now, oftentimes in major cities, they have the funds to be able to provide these resources, but smaller cities do not, and that is what Major Connections aims to solve. If you want to learn more about Major Connections, check out the link in the description. If you have the financial means to do so, please donate to the cause. And if you don't at this moment, that's okay. Please share it with your friends and family. But for now, thank you for taking the time to watch Behind the Beasts, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.